Welcome, investigator. Evil is on the rise. Crime is escalating. Our mission is to eliminate the crime by exposing evil, examine why it manifests, and highlight the brave souls that confront it every day. Join us as we work together to bring justice to every victim. Welcome to All Things Crime. Here's your host, Jared Bradley.
I've said it multiple times and pretty much every guest that's a law enforcement has said it as well, where nobody hates a bad cop more than good cops. But the problem is it may take a little while for that bad cop to actually expose himself in a sense that, he's doing something corrupt or he's doing something off the wall where uh, he snaps, something like that. But until then, he's basically, considered a good cop. And just like everybody should be considered a good person until they prove to the world that they're not. Well, in law enforcement, it's obviously just um, it has to be exposed eventually, but it may take some time. So yeah, that some guy may be on the police force for 4 or 6 years, and then finally he runs into a situation where he just can't handle it and he snaps, and then that's when they realize, yeah, this guy shouldn't be a cop. So, but they'll eventually find him. And unfortunately, a lot of times the repercussions of that person snapping are huge, and somebody's thrown in jail that's innocent. Something really dramatic happens. I like that. What was that cop? I think up in Minneapolis that the lady was running up to the police vehicle to basically report a robbery or something, and the cop was, I think he was out of Somalia. Hadn't been in the country very long, and he'd only been on the police force a couple of years. He pulled his weapon out and shot her and killed her, and she was just trying to report a crime, but for some reason he freaked out and thought that she was attacking him or something. I don't know, but the crazy thing is that that police officer obviously shouldn't be a police officer. And
Yeah.
and now,
It's a tough thing. You're in a high crime area and you can be killed in a second. Action beats reaction, so it can
yeah,
happen. A lot of that used to be justified under that umbrella phrase of due to officer safety, and people were given a pass. But those days are pretty much waning. There's not too much of that left anymore about officer safety. So the game's changed. We just got to be better at it. If I say we, meaning the guys who wore the badge or do still wear the badge, you just got to be better at it. You can't be baited. You can't respond to it. And you got to handle these things like they're a business. Almost.
yeah, absolutely. All right, so let me get
Okay.
to another one. We'll go to one more for right now. Um, did you hear the episodes with Jane, um, who was the fifth victim of the Golden State Killer?
I don't think so.
Okay. Um, well, essentially, she was a mom. It was about 6:30 in the morning. She had her 3-year-old snuggling in bed with her. Her
I
husband had just left for work, and the Golden State Killer
I did.
came
I
in.
did. I'm familiar with it. East Area Rapist is on the crawler on your title, but
Yeah.
I'm familiar with it. Yeah, it's horrible. Horrible.
Um, so there's a ton of um, comments on that one too. So um, one of them here, and let's go on the positive side of one of these comments. Said, "You're a brave woman. Um, Fight or flight will save your life. Being scared is normal, but panicking will hurt you." So, out of all the interactions that you've had with victims, especially sexual assault or the families of homicide victims, um, anything jump out at you about kind of their reactions, how they deal with the trauma of it?
Yeah, I had a great gift when I was a young detective. Harry O'Reilly, since passed away, NYPD. He was a guru at this and one of the best ever. But he said the first thing is psychological first aid and get those people feeling safe. And it means developing other tools in your head other than just this stoic professionalism that's seen with Joe Friday. And that means developing other traits for your personality and get that person calmed down, whatever it is, and get them to feel safe again. And also responding to things like that. You've got to have empathy in the entire time, and you cannot get to the point where anything is going to shock you. And those of us that have worked those sexual assaults have seen everything, um, and just outrageous conduct and things, and the victims don't always want to describe it because they're afraid they're not going to be believed. And there have been quote victims that haven't been victims before on this. That absolutely does happen. So you have to have an open mind. The point is, it takes a very mature investigator, a very mature police officer, and they should be developing these tools to the point where they're going to understand and have validity. What you can't have is doubt them at all at any point until you need to have that other type of conversation. But if the person's mentally ill or they're lying about it, you're probably going to make it worse by confronting them and just cutting short something or something like that. Let them prattle on. They're going to talk themselves into a terrible tangle. They use a quote from a movie, but they're just going to talk to themselves to the point where there's no veracity there to it. East Area Rapist was the name on the like I said on that. And that guy was particularly insidious and mentally sadistic, not physically sadistic, mentally. The way he would put those plates on and balance it to torture the boyfriends or husbands and the man in the house, and would do things like that, and then sexually assault the victims in the other room. And it was just done to mentally to twist that person. It wasn't to cause tumult and trouble in the family the entire life, because you've demeaned, you've humiliated that husband, and they have to live with that. Panic. You do whatever you can to survive, man. And I can't tell you what the right circumstances are. Left, right, aim. My dad was in a shooting when he was a reserve officer. His partner was killed, and he shot at the guy, and then he held up on the second shot because the guy crossed in front of a restaurant where people were eating. It was the right call, I would say, on all accounts. But other people would say you should dump the whole magazine on him. And I'm just telling you that's you do whatever it takes to survive in that situation, and you're going to balance that on what your perception of that situation is and how you've been trained and your level of all sorts of things like physical fitness, ability to run, not run. Is the guy a killer? This guy's got those dead doll-like eyes where he's going to kill you in a heartbeat, and you don't know. So
Yeah, absolutely. All right, here's another one. So the title of the video was a tense cop standoff. Basically, the scenario is in New York City, a 20-year-old basically kills his 8-year-old stepbrother, stabs his mom, and he stabs his stepdad, or maybe it was his dad and his stepmom. So, and when the cops arrived, the 20-year-old had a knife to the throat of his father, and he'd already stabbed him a couple times. So he was about ready to slit his father's throat right there in the kitchen when the cops arrived. So cops come in, they scream at him. They basically say, both in English and Spanish, drop the knife. And then one of the officers takes one shot, shoots him, kills him, and that ends the threat. So that obviously the little 60-second short part of it was kind of about that scenario and the tense situation that these cops walk into. And it's interesting. This guy says, where the hell did he get that assumption? I think the cop escalated it. Remember, to a hammer, everything looks like a nail. To a cop, everyone is a criminal. So
that's a dumb statement. It's a dumb statement, and there are people that are just, they don't need to be there. They can't have a gun. They're a liability walking. But from the circumstances, what you told me, and I've read that comment there. From the circumstances you told me, unless it's a butter knife, we're going to see an anomaly. But it sounds like a sharp knife. He's killed this little kid. He's already showed a propensity for violence in the use of force continuum, which doesn't exist at the federal level, but exists to a degree in all states out there. And the use of force continuum justified lethal force would be justified, and the shooting policy for the feds would be justified as well. The reason it's justified is guys shown and demonstrated a propensity to hurt somebody seriously to the point of he's already done it. There is no stopping that, and unless that guy is going to quickly disarm himself and take that opportunity to disarm himself, which doesn't seem like anything over there. It's absolutely a justified shooting. In fact, you would be negligent not to do that to try to save that person's,
Yeah.
life. Yeah. Yeah,
Well,
I'm
that
open, I'm open to the public. You got a better idea. Maybe shoot the knife out of his hand. I'm open to it. Like I like to say, I'll switch jobs with you anytime you want to be critical. I'll sit back and let
yeah.
you do it. But throw a big net over them? I've seen some innovative stuff, by the way. I've seen people use mattresses and do a mattress rush on somebody when somebody's threatening harm. Awesome, work, but we can't carry around a mattress. You got to take it from a bedroom. I've seen awesome stuff like that, and these guys are trying real
Yeah.
hard. Yes, using force because somebody threatened you. There could be other things, but that's in a
Well,
perfect world.
yeah, that brings up that, what was it? I think it was in like Cincinnati or something like that, where when the officers arrived, there was two teenagers were fighting, and one of them, when the officer actually came up to him, one of the teenagers had a knife and was literally swinging it at the other teenager. And just based on the aggression that she was going after the other teenager, the cop had to shoot her. And there were all sorts of people that started commenting on that, saying, why didn't you just shoot her in the leg or shoot her in the arm? And, so get rid of the threat that way and not have to kill her. Well, anybody that has actually ever spent any time with firearms, first of all, it's ridiculous, especially with a handgun, more than about 25, 30 feet away. It's difficult enough to hit, especially if you're running or moving. It's difficult enough just to hit somebody's center mass. To try to hit a moving arm there's like literally one in a million that you would actually do that. And so essentially, if that's your goal, you are going to basically consign that other victim that's about to get stabbed. You're saying, you know what, I'm just writing her life off, and she's not the one that's being the aggressor. So you see things the same way?
Absolutely, and that's a difficult shot to make, even the best of circumstances. I one time did a summer biathlon where you run and you get the rifle, and you run again and you get the rifle, and it is tough because taking that rifle from here, so when your heart is racing through and you have to make a split-second decision, and somebody's swinging a knife, that's a tough shot to make. So that's where training comes in. They make that shot. Now that being said, what else can you do over there? Watch the videos where they're even playing around with the knife, and somebody's threatened somebody, and he whips the knife like in a whipping motion, and he catches him on the neck, and it's a horrible thing. The guy bleeds out right there. So I'm sure, he's trying to cut him enough to get him away from him, but he kills these, and there's multiple ones like that. So it's a dangerous weapon, and that's not counting, that's what can be done just accidentally, and somebody's really meaning force. So you've got to use deadly force at that point. That person has shown the propensity to use deadly force over there. And I mean,
Yeah.
when you announce your presence and you announce it verbally and loud, you better listen to the police. That's what's the remedy for that? What's the remedy for that victim in that case? Like, I didn't want to shoot her. She didn't seem to be that much. Now you have a dead child over here is possibly a victim, certainly unarmed, but I don't know. When I would respond to those things, I'd put them off I'd yell at when there was a fight going on. I'd say, next person swings is going to get, impact weapon. And that usually got their attention. In this case, you've elevated that significantly. So there's no fix for that except deadly force. Like I said, I'm open to suggestions. You want to use a fired bolo or from Running Man the movie and fire a net at somebody? I'm open to it, But
Yeah.
how much stuff can people carry on their vests now? And maybe they
Yeah.
have it. Maybe they have it. That'd be great if they did. But
Yeah. I mean, these
and there
vests
are
are what?
mentally ill people that have that out there, and I get that. I wish there was a better way of handling that. And if they're not harming anybody, man, hit them with the net system or the bolo system. I've seen happen, and that might save some lives from that. But
Taser, something like that. Yeah.
yeah,
Less than
non-lethal
lethal
force.
force, but
Yep.
I mean, literally, when this guy's running up on the situation,
That's
this
different.
this
That's different. That's
teenager,
the
yeah,
use of
she
force
was,
continuum. You're explaining in that use of force continuum where you're explaining that level, that threat, and there's all sorts of indicators. There's 5 or 6 indicators across that, and that you have. And now a lot of it is, your fitness, their ability to. That person is 7 feet tall. I'm a diminutive 5 feet. I'm 60 years old, whatever you want in between, and somebody's going to take that on versus, police officers, a jujitsu black belt who's able to handle himself or herself very well over here, and this is a small child, has no deadly weapon. That's a very different situation. But for everything you're telling me, but yeah, no, a knife equals everything. A gun can be fired by anybody. You know, that's a bullet launching system right there.
yeah, no, absolutely. All right, brother. Well, listen, I know, just kind of threw this out at you, and I appreciate you just
Glad to do it.
responding and jumping in. But you know what? For all of you out there, if you've got different opinions than what we've been talking about here, then let us know, and we will address those at a future date in a different podcast. But I just thought I'd take today and throw this out there and just try to answer some of the questions. Let all of you know that I try to get to every single comment. Where I was completely overwhelmed with that one video that the hundreds and hundreds of comments. So eventually I'll try to get to all of them. But if you leave a comment, then especially on a video that we're putting out right now, I promise I will get to it. And we appreciate you, all of you that are listening out there. Crime is a tough business. It's tough on the side of even the circumstances of the criminals. A lot of times I try to empathize with that, and try to see it their direction. But committing crime, honestly, there's just no excuse for it, and especially because you're damaging somebody else's life that more than likely does not deserve it. And so there's just no reason for it. But I'll also, if the cops are in the right, then I'm going to back them, and I hope you guys do too. So, all right,
Yeah, I'll
Tom.
leave you with this, Jared, before you hang up.
Yeah,
I've
I
only
know.
known a few really battle-hardened guys, I mean, that were in war, that having to drop the hammer and kill somebody did not affect them, or at least they were conditioned because they had done that before. But that takes a terrible toll on somebody in having to kill that person. That will give, that changes that police officer for the rest of their life, and whether they want to admit it or not. So it's a horrible thing that they have to do, and I've seen them leave police work after that. They've just lost. It became very real very quickly. So nobody wants to do that. So you know what? If somebody has a
Yeah.
solution or a suggestion, beanbag guns, Play-Doh shooting guns. I've seen that in the past, and they brought up over time. But like I said, invent it, come up with a solution, and recommend it, test it, field it. And again, there's a use of force continuum for that reason. Change the law. Talk to your congressman and do that if you have better
Mhm.
ideas in doing that. So over the years, the taser or the dart firing device, that is what they call it in Florida, that they have the use, but you can make that situation worse and make it more dangerous because the police officer has to close that distance, and somebody can close that distance very quickly. They can rip that taser right out of their chest, and it has
Oh
happened.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially if there's any kind of drugs or something involved. Boy, being when they're hyped up on some of these drugs, man, taser just isn't going to stop them. So,
Yeah.
all right, I appreciate it, Tom.
Sounds good, Jared. Good
Great
talking to you.
discussion. Okay,
All right.
talk to you later.
You got it, bud.
Thanks for joining us. Your attention today brings us one step closer to exposing and eliminating the evil that brings crime to our communities. Hit subscribe and share this episode. Together, we will bring justice to every victim.